So today we're joined by Reece King from King Productions. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Selina, thank you.
Good. And what's your role going to be at TUSIF Independent Film Festival?
So King Productions is a partner now for TUSIF. So we've come in and we are really trying to help with the technicals. So on the whole weekend, our job is to make sure everything runs smoothly, which sounds simple, but it isn't.
Yeah.
When we've got a couple of screens running at the same time, it's making sure everything works, making sure every film is correctly timed and making sure everyone is in the right place at the right time and all those technical works. And one thing which is great about 2SIF, which is what we love, is that our main screen is a DCP screen, so it's digital cinema packaged screen. So this is what you see in all the cinemas, whether you go to your Cineworld or View or wherever you go to. Every film is exported as a DCP, and it's that kind of thing, and it's what we'll be saying to the films that are being selected for the film festival. It's something that we're going to push and make sure that every export that we get is also set up for DCP. So all the sound, all the visuals is exactly as you would get, and this screen at the MK Gallery is perfect for that. So those sort of technicals we've been brought on board with, just to try and make sure everything is just that high end.
Okay. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your videography background as well?
Yeah, so I actually started in TV probably, maybe about 15 years ago now, 15, 20 years ago. So I started in camera teams, mostly on sitcoms. And I worked my way up as a camera trainee, as an assistant, and going up to an operator. So I started, as I said, it was sitcoms that I started on through. So it was Red Dwarf, Outnumbered, Phone Shop, things like that, that I got in with these teams that were just sort of top of their game, really, especially in that world, and started to learn off of those operators, off of those DOPs, and just really get a grip of how filmmaking works. And I was about 19 when I first stepped on set on Red Dwarf.
What a great experience.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was fun. I mean, for me personally, I grew up watching shows like Red Dwarf. So my dad had all the VHS tapes, and I would watch them. So to be on that set with that cast, and admittedly, budget wasn't great, and so I even stepped in as a background supporting artist. So there's a few episodes out there you might be able to see where I'm in as well.
Amazing.
But things like that was just such a great experience. Still being a teenager, still learning that craft of filmmaking, and everything's just sort of developed from there, really. And it was a case of my goal was always as a camera operator, and to make films, and soon after, probably maybe the mid 2010s, something like that, I moved into corporate filmmaking, and I worked with a lot of corporate teams that still used a lot of people in the film and TV industry. And again, in that sense, I learned the wider filmmaking experience. So it wasn't just cameras. I then started to learn the edit and how to shoot with that edit in mind and to craft those films. I learned to produce, I learned to direct.
And some of those companies are quite local to Milton Keynes.
Some of them are quite local, one of them being Network Rail, quite a big local head office that is local to Milton Keynes and still quite prominent in the area. So a lot of those corporate teams that can explore and have the ability to explore further when it comes to filmmaking. So that was great. It was never a case that, I came through. I know there's some people out there that shoot great stuff that may have not gone through that route, may have just sort of bought a DSLR and shot stuff as a videographer, which is great. My journey was a little bit through that film and TV world, and that led me to forming King Productions. So I formed King Productions in 2023, and the idea was we were filmmakers but for corporates and organisations, and especially locally in Bedfordshire and Buckinghamshire, we still worked with Network Rail quite a bit, but we still worked with a lot of charities and organisations, so local charities like Willen Hospice, the Safety Centre. We made a TV advert for Willen Hospice, which went out in 2024.
Fantastic.
And that was just fantastic. Funny enough, as about 6 weeks after that went live, unfortunately, my grandfather ended up in Willen Hospice for his last 6 days. And it was that weird coincidence, I guess, that I just finished making that film for them, and just being both sides of it. You know, both sides of almost that lens of making those films and seeing what happened, and then obviously being that side of it as well, and being there every day. But we've always tried to elevate those filmmaking. We've always tried to elevate filmmaking locally if we can, which is what we did with Women Hospice. So that was a very nice one, and very, very, very close to myself personally, that we managed to do.
Okay. And what do you think will inspire people in the community about TUSIF?
I think it's the sheer fact of you've got all these people coming together, and there's a lot of local filmmakers as well, but also abroad, and it's just finding that one centre point where everyone gets to be in that one place, and people within Bedfordshire and Buckinghamshire all get to see what these people can do, and what these films are like, and what these people can make. People with a vision, people who want to tell stories. And I think for anyone locally in that area, it's just fascinating, because it doesn't happen. It's, you know, I've been in Milton Keynes personally for most of my life, and nothing like this has come around. Nothing like this has been here before. And I think for that whole community spirit, that community aspect of it, of just seeing everyone come together and just sit there and just watch a film, there's something so warm and just wholesome about people just sitting in a dark room and just being lost in a story, which is fantastic. And TUSIF is going to do that. It's tenfold.
So what's your main focus that weekend at the film festival?
Well, outside the technicals, which we're doing anyway, my main focus on that weekend is just to see some of those films that we've put through. So I'm very lucky that I'm one of the judges. I'm one of the core judges for TUSIF. And some of the films we've watched already that I know will end up going through to that weekend. And to be part of that process and to see those films, and a big part of what I'll do over that weekend is make sure I catch those films that I know I've sat there and I've watched, and I want to see the look on those filmmakers' faces, look on the audience faces that I had when I was watching them, and go, this film was amazing, this needs to be seen. So that's going to be a good fun part for me for that whole weekend, of seeing that and seeing those films played in front of everyone.
And what will stand out for you in terms of people that are nominated for awards? What is it that do you think you'll be looking to identify in these films?
That's a great question. I think with all these films, it's interesting to see what can be done with all different options that are available, because there are categories there for student films, but there are also films there which have budgets that reach six figures, and everything in between. But everything sits in its own way. You can still have a student film or a film with no budget sit next to a film that had $500,000 budget in the same festival. And I think that's what's really interesting, and something that I want to keep looking at, is the fact that these films can be made, and it's looking at what these filmmakers can do, regardless of what's in front of them. You know, if they've been given budget or no budget or whatever, or time frames, but they can still get that story and craft that story. And that's really interesting to me, and that's really something that I'd love to see, and see what people can do. I know for a fact there are some really good student films there, and people who know how to tell a story. And it's nice to see what could be in the future for those filmmakers, and where their careers could go.
So what is like one of the biggest mistakes that you've come across in terms of the industry and your line of work, which could, you know, affect the judging of
biggest mistakes? Wow. I think everything comes down to a script, and it's hard for me to say, because my background is obviously as camera, as a director of photography. So a lot of what I look for personally in the judging is the composition, is the framing, is the lighting. But essentially, if the lighting is good, you wouldn't even notice that there's lighting. So a lot of it comes down to that script. And that's where a film can be made, can be won or lost, is really down to that. If that script works, if those story works, if those characters work, and you're engaged and you're sold and you're invested in those characters, that is really what could fail or could really sort of elevate a film. So that's some of the mistakes that I have seen in the past, and that can be made, is when the script's not right, or just not quite right, and things aren't delivered the way that they should be. The film may lose its pace. The film may lose just some sort of integrity. So that is something that I would really say to people, is just to make sure that is a watertight script and you know everything works. That and sound. Sounds silly. There is an old adage in filmmaking that you can fix bad video to an extent, bad audio, there's no fix. You can't get away from that. So
are you taking notes, everyone?
make sure you have a good sound team with you, and that's it really. As long as it sounds good, and the lighting, as I said, as long as it works, you wouldn't really notice. It's just making sure that script is on point, because that's where people can fail.
Sure. So are you Milton Keynes born and bred?
I am Milton Keynes born and bred, yes. Milton Keynes, Buckinghamshire, born and bred. There was 1 year I did move out, but it was only to Bedfordshire. So that covers two SIF, right?
Exactly.
It's both counties.
Brilliant.
But yes, no, Milton Keynes, born and bred. So I think through that time, it's always been that perfect hub, MK, of, especially when I was working in the industry, it was so close to London, 30 minutes, where a lot of productions were happening about 15, 20 years ago. Nowadays, not so much. A lot's happening in Manchester and Leeds and things like that. But Milton Keynes was just that perfect place where it wasn't a big city like London. It had parks. It had, it still has, a lot of places where you can relax, but still a lot of places where you could go of an evening and things you can do. So I've always held Milton Keynes in a special place, because I think it's a great hub, and I think it should be more widely used for things like 2SIF and for bigger film festivals and for bigger events, because I've lived here all my life, and I think it's a special place.
Definitely, and I find that the community are very supportive of creatives as well. And I've been really inspired by the different projects going on in the city and being part of it, fortunately. So, it's great.
It's wonderful, because people don't even realise the amount of different things that are happening in the scene as well. And over the years, you start to learn who's out there, even the studios that are out there, the visual effects people, the stunt people, people that live in Milton Keynes and work out of Milton Keynes. There is a rich network of people all based here, all within the industry, and it's just fascinating to see.
Yeah, definitely. So I saw you today filming the whole team at MK Gallery. How did you find the venue for 2SIF?
The MK Gallery is fantastic. We did some filming today for the 2SIF for some promotional material, and we shot it in the main theatre in the Sky Room. And it's such a wonderful place. I think it's one of the only independent, if not the only independent cinema in Milton Keynes. And it's a wonderful venue, absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to sit there in August and just watch all those films in that cinema. Which is fantastic. It really is a good venue.
Okay, great. So if anyone's not sure about whether to buy a ticket or not, why don't you tell everyone why they should?
Do you know what? This is an amazing event. More and more things are being added weekly that's coming out. I know we've got a lot of talks. I mean, from a technical production side, myself, there are talks from DOPs, there are talks from stunt people. There are some really, really interesting talks happening at this festival. So if anyone is even a little bit interested in filmmaking, or people who have maybe watched a behind the scenes documentary or something like that on your DVD extras, if you're interested in that at all, it's a case of come along, because there's some talks, there's really, really cool side of it that isn't just as well as watching the films, but everything behind it the whole weekend. So yeah, definitely grab a ticket. Grab a ticket.
Great. Oh, it was a pleasure to talk to you today.
And you,
Thank you for
Selina.
your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.